Every game has its ultimate challenge, whether it's completing Halo Solo on Legendary difficulty, or speedrunning Minecraft to kill the Ender Dragon. Challenges like that always extend into racing games as well, usually in the form of winning a major race or setting a world record lap time. But in the 2008 game MX Simulator, one user-created map became the pinnacle of displaying your skill sets at the highest level. This is the story of the quest to beat MX Simulator's hardest track, Jacob's Ladder. Before we begin, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. We plan on putting out much more content like this moving forward, and your support is much appreciated. Let's get into it. To understand this challenge, you perhaps have to know how difficult MX Simulator is. As the title suggests, the game is designed to be a simulation of riding a real motocross bike. Controlling the leaning of the bike, using throttle control, shifting, and many more aspects have made MX Simulator one of the most challenging games to be successful at, as without a base knowledge of how a dirt bike works, many struggle to even go in a straight line. I personally put several hundred hours into the game before I could comfortably run several laps on easier tracks for an extended time. And many players will spend thousands of hours to be able to compete at the highest level of racing in the game as well. Even the slightest wrong movement can cause you to crash, and often perfect inputs are the only way to make it around a racetrack. Jacob's Ladder, however, is not a racetrack. Right from the brain of MX Simulator user Motospun, also known as Joseph Pilsner, Jacob's Ladder was the much harder sequel to Stairway to Heaven. Released in May of 2020, Stairway to Heaven featured 22 steps from bottom to top of some tricky levels to navigate. However, the stakes of this map were much lower, as most of the elements of the track featured things that even beginner players can navigate. Though not the easiest map, most players could finish it within minutes, and even I completed it with Alex Ekman for a video in 2020, where we walked through each level fairly slowly and still finished in just 17 minutes. But 1 month after the release of Stairway to Heaven, Motospun hit the community with Jacob's Ladder. The map featured only 13 steps this time, but each step turned the dial up in a big way when it came to the level of difficulty. While some elements remained simple, many others required an advanced knowledge of MX Simulator physics to even get close to completing them. Motospun posted just one image of the track, and another image to a Wikipedia article referencing the 1990 horror film Jacob's Ladder, which is about a Vietnam infantryman whose war experiences result in hallucinations that haunt him. Motospun even underlined the part of the article that states he struggles to maintain his sanity. While the map could theoretically be completed in 12 minutes or less, the challenge to even finish it in the first place was quite daunting. I began playing the map soon after it was released, but decided to take some breaks as the challenge seemed like it may be too much to dedicate time to. A few players began to finish the map, so in 2022 I decided to put my focus back into it with the goal of finishing it for good. To even finish the map, you had to be riding a 450 motorcycle, which are the fastest available in the game. So in late 2022, my journey began on my trusty SYS Racing 450. The first step already features something that can cause many players to stop the challenge before they even start. As you roll onto the first step, you are greeted with a section of 26 rollers that are all quite large. The catch is the transition between each roller is completely cut out and will drop you right back to the floor if you fail to stay on top of them. Eventually, I figured out the trick to them was not going too fast and just carefully tapping the top of each roller to make it through, and floor 1 was done. The next floor has more rollers again, but this time after a wall jump that takes all of your speed away. The rollers build into what's called a dragon's back that you have to launch off over a big gap and land in more rollers. If you're good enough to have the speed, you still might crash from too hard of a landing, and at that point you're a passenger on whether you will stay on floor 2 or not. Floor 3 looks incredibly simple but requires either great luck or incredible precision. You have to build speed and clear a huge gap double before tightroping immediately on the left or right side over another small gap. There is a strategy to purposely case the double and crash, and you might be lucky enough to stop on top of the jump, which is a strat I chose many times as it seems somehow more consistent. The fourth floor is then where some elite bike control at slower speeds comes into play, as the entire floor is a sequence of 10 bunny hops over 12-foot gaps. What you might be beginning to notice as well is failure of these elements usually results in you having to not just do the element again, but the whole floor again. If you fail floor 4, for example, a wall prevents you from dropping to the end of floor 3, and you actually have to go back to the beginning of floor 3, do that all over again before you can try floor 4 again. Most floors featured this theme. The good news about floor 4 is there was once again another way to sort of cheat the system by using a wall ride to launch up to the end of the floor. Again though, to get it right, required another advanced ability to be precise. Floor 5 was then a tightrope of rollers along the wall before you get to the bunny hop maze of floor 6. After following a raised path through half of the floor, you then had to complete a sequence of very precise bunny hops to reach the end of floor 6. This floor, however, was more of a checkpoint floor, as failing it only required you to go back to the beginning of the floor instead of down a whole level. But this is also the first floor where getting stuck in a random ledge could end your run entirely. Floor 7 then featured a long set of tall rollers into a massive gap, all in a narrow space. If you're lucky enough to get to this point, you're now halfway done, but floor 8 is where reality comes right back to you. The 8th floor starts off with a sequence of tightrope jumps where if you fail, you can go back to the beginning of the floor, but as soon as you land the third jump, it's all or nothing as you jump off the staircase to an outer raised course. This external part features 6 roller sections with 3 of them having gaps in the transitions, followed by 10 very precise bunny hop jumps all while on a narrow ledge. If you fail any of this, you go all the way back to the beginning of the whole map. And even if you reach the last jump of the floor, you must get enough speed to clear a big gap and jump through a narrow ledge to land on floor 9, but you have very limited room to stop before you fail the 9th floor before it even starts. The 9th floor is then 30 precise and very rapid bunny hops that will drop you all the way back to the beginning of floor 8 if you even fail one of them. And then floor 10 is 10 more much larger bunny hops where once again, failure drops you 2 floors back to the beginning of floor 8. Once those bunny hops are done, floor 10 is far from over. After completing the bunny hops, you have to gather speed to bunny hop off the staircase again onto a narrow raised ledge. Then a maze of bunny hops brings you to the narrowest tightrope sequence in the whole map. If you fail any of this, your entire run is over again. Fortunately, once you reach floor 11, you are finally through the worst of it, and you'll also reach a checkpoint floor where failure from here does not end your run. The 11th floor is a long weaving section of track, where as long as you take your time, it should be rather doable. And then finally, one more tightrope against the wall on floor 12 brings an end to the run, and you can launch up to floor 13 and finish the map. It's a staggering challenge of perfection over and over again, but it's all doable. I put my head down and went. Once I got the first floor done, most of my runs could at least make it to floor 6 rather quickly. The bunny hops on floor 4 were tough, but eventually I got the strategy down as well. Where floor 6 tripped many players up was just getting the bunny hops consistently. Several of my runs required me to just go back and do the floor over and over again, but sometimes I would get stuck as well and my whole run would be over. Floor 7 was simple enough to figure out a method of rolling everything, doubling the last rollers, and then clearing the gap. But floor 8 is where all of my struggles continued over and over again.
I think we did too much exercising for one day.
Oh no! Oh, are you done?
That's a line fall.
Go back in the beginning. Getting the rollers with cutout transitions in them consistently became a trouble point for me, and hours began racking up on my time spent trying to beat the map simply by failing floor 8 over and over again. When I first got to the 9th floor, I thought things would turn a page, but then I got stuck failing the bunny hops more often than I expected, having to redo floor 8 multiple times and then failing that one again as well. By the time I got the bunny hops completed on floor 9 and then the same for floor 10, I had sunk almost 50 hours into the map, and my patience was fully tested. So, I came up with a strategy to finish floor 10 that I knew was a guarantee to work. After finishing the maze of bunny hops teetering on failing the whole map, I spun the bike around and backed up across all 5 tight ropes from there. Backing up is much slower, but no leaning occurs when backing up, and you can be much more precise with this method. I wasn't concerned about speedrunning the map, I simply just wanted to finish it. After much time, I was fully backed up to floor 11 and ready to end this whole map for good.
You're good.
Oh my god. Floor 11, you beauty. Thought I'd never see you.
After some slow rolling through the 11th floor, I carefully tight-roped the 12th floor and turned for the top of the hill, my one and only time.
Let's go! Let's go!
Wow.
Finally! Finally! 81 minutes exactly.
What?
Time of exactly 81 minutes is what it took to fail this specific run multiple times before crossing the finish line. The relief to finally beat this challenge was immense, and by that point still fewer than 100 people had even finished the map. And with that, Jacob's Ladder was done. A challenge I simply told myself that I was going to finish no matter what. I wasn't the first, I wasn't the fastest, but I was done. I launched off the top of the map all the way back to the bottom and haven't opened the track since. It just goes to show that even the toughest challenges can be completed if you take the time to do it. If any of you are watching this and thinking about giving it a go, I wish you the best of luck. If I can help you achieve beating the map at all, please feel free to reach out. But that's how I beat MX Simulator's hardest map, and I thank you all for watching. Happy gaming!